All right, Dimas, how you
Hey,
doing, man?
I'm, I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Good, man. I have been looking forward to this, man. Oh man, I
Uh,
tell you what, this is so cool. Thank you so much. What time do you guys have over there right now?
oh, it's 11 p.m. at night,
Oof.
Sunday night.
Oh boy, I
Yeah,
apologize.
it's
That's
fine
that's
though.
late. Oh my
It,
gosh. Well,
it's fine.
well,
I've banked my sleeping hours earlier, so I'm good.
Oh my, well, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. This is so cool. As I say, I appreciate the time today and joining us from Jakarta, Indonesia. Thank you so much, man. It's so cool. Such a fun opportunity to be able
thank you
to
for having me.
absolutely. So here on Grown on You Live,
Mm,
we've actually talked before. We had a little session there. We had some
yeah.
fun and some drinks and talked some things. Today, this is going to be our proper episode. I
Hmm.
have an introductory question for you, and then the remainder of the interview is about you and your craft, your writing and interest in film and in
Right,
writing as well in books. And then I have one finale for you, my man. So if you're
right.
all set and comfy, we'll get this bad boy started.
Yes. All
All right.
right, let's get it on.
All right, let me
Okay.
ask you. So I typically ask about, my wife and I do some travel. We're coming over to Jakarta. We come and fly over. Where is a
Okay.
local food staple or a restaurant that you would say this is a place that you have to try and maybe this is an
Hmm.
item that's a personal favorite?
Right. Well, Indonesia is an archipelago, so we are consists of islands, thousands of islands, and
Hmm.
because we are surrounded by the sea, I think we have a great selection of seafood to choose. You can eat like grilled fish or lobster and stuff like that. So you could go to I don't know. I think you could go to, if you go to Jakarta, you can go to a place named Ancol, which is a location. It's a beach with a lot of like amusement park as well, a beach, and then a restaurant. And usually they serve great seafood because it's by the beach. And so can be a romantic place to dine in, and it can be a good place for family to eat, to have dinner together as well. And you can just choose from a plethora of fresh fish and all kind of seafood if you're into that sort of thing. So yeah.
That sounds perfect.
Mhm. Yeah.
That sounds like the spot. You were explaining that, and I'm over here like, all
Right.
right, there we go.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you. Hopefully, if that ends up happening, I think right now is a time, where it's a balance of not wanting to be selfish and saying, oh, the pandemic, and I've been sitting at
Agree.
home, and but for the better of
Yeah.
everybody, let's just sit our asses home and try to help out and
Agree.
wave this thing out,
Yeah.
and not continue even accidentally, spreading more of this stuff. So, but man, I would love to,
Agree.
I think even more so after this last year and some of the people that I've gotten to meet, yourself included, I've looked further
Hmm.
into Indonesia and the
Hmm.
culture and the different islands, and
Hmm.
what a beautiful place. And man, it would be
Hmm.
amazing to come and see someday, and with my eyes actually instead of online.
Right.
Be able to visit that restaurant. Shoot.
Yeah, sure. Please
um,
just come in after the pandemic is over, when everybody's been vaccinated and this pesky
mhm.
virus is gone, then let's
Yeah.
just, connect, right? And
Right.
travel.
Right.
I'm dying to do some traveling, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All
Right.
right, so digging into
Yeah.
your first of all your film interests. So let's
Right.
bring it back to being in your youth, and what were earlier interests as far as may it be television or movies that
Right.
that really drew your attention at an early
Right.
age.
Right. I think we've talked about a little bit on our previous session about me, my first exposure to horror movies was when I watched, when I was very too little to watch something like that. But I watched this Indonesian movie involving this weird tiger or whatever. So, you know, it's the images that was, you know, shown to me was like so magnificent to the point where I mean, I couldn't care less about the story. I just care about what is presented on
Visuals.
screen. So, yeah, the visuals. So, I mean, you have a head of a woman and then the body of a tiger. It's just amazing. So because of that movie, I remember equates horror movies to the supernatural. So slasher for me for the longest time was not a horror movie for me. So horror movies are always about monsters and about a ghost and demonic things. So I was drawn into movies like The Omen, for instance, you know, because of the supernatural stuff, and then Poltergeist and stuff like that. So to me, those are the horror movies that I view as kind of the definitive horror movies for me as a kid. I mean, I know that back then the TV station, our TV station also showed the X-Files, but because it was mixed in with police procedural aspects, for some reason, to my limited brain at that time, I felt like, hey, this is not, you know, fully horror. This is detective work and stuff like that. But of course, it deals with the supernatural as well. But I really, you know, enjoy full-on demonic, you know, satanic or ghostly horror movies like The Omen and then the Poltergeist and the like. So yeah, those are
okay. Now, even you know, taking it back before horror, were there certain things that caught your eye, or action superheroes or anything like that, where you kind of just can't help but to sit there in front of the TV and wow, what is that? You know,
right. Sadly enough, I mean, I think my interest has always been to the to the weird, strange stuff. So I don't know. I think we can consider right. So I mean, I think we can consider Alien the movie as horror sci-fi, but you know, not especially the sequels are not entirely horror. It's sci-fi mixed with action and stuff like that. But the design of it, the design of the ship, the design of the creature, and how the creature kind of infect people, and then how they reproduce. It's something that I don't think anyone could take their eyes off of. I think conceptually that movie is just amazing. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
horror all the way. So I'm not into superhero. It's so weird. Yeah.
So sometimes there's a little bit of that blend too, but I do want to mention, as far as you had mentioned, I think the last time we were talking, an interest in comic books. Now, was something at an early age, or did that come a little bit later?
It came a little bit later, I guess. I mean the type of comic books that I read, I think, was standard, like Spider-Man and the Hulk and stuff like that. But I was never, now that I think about it, I was never a huge comic book fan, really.
Oh, okay.
I mean, no, I think I'm much more into the horror, genre type of a guy. So, yeah, I don't know why it doesn't appeal to me that much. I mean, I should, right?
It's fun, I mean, those are, I mean, personal interests, and that's, that's the cool thing, as far as, being that young, and it's like, this is something that I love, and this is something that, I've found, kind of a passion too, and, dive right on in and see what you can find. What as far as at local either video shops or theaters, take us back to those,
right?
And some fond memories that come up of attending those.
Right. So way back when I was younger, we don't have, I don't think VHS rental shops were there anymore. It was replaced by Laserdisc, right? So this huge disc, but very fragile. But at that time, if I'm not mistaken, at that time the image quality was so superior. So that was what we had way back when. Rental shops or rental for Laserdisc, and I usually went there with my family, and trying to pick certain movies to watch together. And because it is to be watched together, I seldom picked horror movies because no one in my family really likes horror movies. So I was the odd one out. So the things that we would pick out were the likes like, Batman Returns, which was awesome, and dark, and I love it as well, but never. So yeah, so I was never able to watch horror movies through those rentals, those Laserdisc rentals. It was only when I had my own, allowance, money, and I saved up, and I was able to walk, because it was just walking distance from my house, my family's house, and the mall where the Cineplex is located. So
okay.
I could just run to that place and really see what's out there, what's playing, and then watched those movies, after school, without anyone, accompanying me. So because I was the only one who likes horror, scary stuff like that. So I remember, movies like, it's not that well known, but in 1997, I watched a movie called The Wishmaster. And I remember, I mean, not a lot of people discuss this movie because maybe it wasn't considered as a classic horror movie by anyone's standard, but the practical effects in that movie, if you happen to rewatch it, it's just amazing. Every really grotesque, and I was too young to be exposed to things like that. But again, I was glued to the screen. Yeah.
Okay. So did they have like they had a rental shop, but did they also have like a shop or a store that you could buy movies as well? I know VHS and Laserdisc were kind of an expensive thing for quite some time, but further down, did they end up having things like that?
Right, but I don't think Laserdisc were ever sold, like, because as you said, it was expensive, and it was the time when the technology or the format was changing into something like, I know the US doesn't have this format, but it is popular in Asia. It is called VCD, Video Compact Disc. So the size is like a compact disc, but it can play movies. So the format changes from the bulky, fragile, Laserdisc into VCDs, and then a DVD came along, and then of course you can buy DVD, you can buy VCDs, because for some reason they are more manageable, and of course they are cheaper, I guess, compared to Laserdisc. So those are the formats that ended up being sold in Indonesia, for as far as I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you end up buying a lot of the VCDs when that technology started coming around?
Yeah.
You remember the first one?
It was, oh man. I did. Once again, it's not something that a movie that anybody in the horror community or horror movie buff talk about. It's called The Relic. It stars Tom Sizemore, and it's about this monster from the mythology from, I don't know, maybe from the South America, that was accidentally transported to Chicago and hiding in a museum and start killing people when a party was going on inside of this museum, and the museum just went into a blackout. The electricity went down, and the monster is lurking. It's just fantastic stuff. So yeah, I bought that.
I love that. I love that. You did way better. I think the first DVD I ever had, like a movie on disc, was the movie Mystery Men. Do you remember that?
Oh no, I didn't. Mystery Man.
That's the general consensus. I don't think anybody remembers that movie.
Who made it?
It was not very good.
Okay. All
but
right.
it was one of those things where DVDs were just coming along, like over
Right.
here. That was kind of from the VHS into the all that.
Mhm.
That was the next transition was the
Right.
DVDs,
Right.
and
And we
yeah,
just
it
want
was
to
just one
have
that
at least one, right? You
right.
just want to have at least one of that format to be put in the shelf. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that was the one to start it all. And I don't know what even ended up happening to that. I don't think I have it anymore. I have some. You ever seen these before? It's called the
That's
CED.
The
So
Exorcist.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's like the laser discs, but
Okay.
RCA, which was like a TV company, they made different electronics. They had like their
Right.
own version, and they would have. I mean, they're big, bulky, and it was a terrible technology.
Right.
But as far as the
Right.
artwork, I loved picking up these if I could. They're pretty
Right.
pretty cool,
Right.
And there's different things where it was like the
So
technology
do you
wasn't
still
great, but
have the device to play that with?
no,
Oh,
I had it for probably a month or so, and it was humongous. Like even on a big old TV console, it was really
yeah.
bulky. So it didn't
Right.
stay along
Right.
very long. But I had that, and I have this Friday the 13th one though too.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the artwork was alternative or alternate from what you would see on VHSs or anything like that. So
Yes.
there was the thing I don't know, different ones, but
Oh
anyway,
my.
yeah. So it's kind of fun. I mean, as far as
Great.
the transition between technologies and things,
Right. Right.
and I want to touch on that as far as the
Yeah.
artwork and kind of going into a video
Mm.
shop and just seeing something. Tell us about a movie that you picked, maybe even to say solely off of the cover art. And what about the art drew you?
Right. Right. So really seldom, very rarely, watch something without, doing some research as to what is it about or how is it good at all. But I remember watching Pet Cemetery without knowing
Ooh,
anything about it, without knowing anything about it, and how hard hitting it can be because it deals with
mm-hmm,
the death of a kid, and
mm-hmm.
because the poster is just it doesn't. I think it shows a cat and somebody. I think the ghost. I forgot his name, but the ghost that kept following the wife character and saying and give warnings about something bad that is going to happen. That ghost is
Right.
staring right at us, right? But there's no mention, there's no picture of a kid was there a truck that did that to the kid? But it was just like any other ghost story, I thought. And then when I watched it, I was so happy that I watched it. I think it was an amazing film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I mean,
Good.
it was
And
amazing.
that one sits right behind me all the time. I always cover it with my damn box.
Jeez! Oh my God! Oh my God! That's the poster. That's the
Yeah.
poster. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I absolutely love that. And to say as far as
Mm,
shocking moments, Zelda
yeah.
from that movie, she just always
Oh
seems
my
to,
God.
at one point or another, when you don't want her to creep up somewhere in your dreams, if you're having too good of
Yeah.
a month, Zelda's gonna creep up somewhere in your nightmares there,
Yeah.
and she's gonna ruin that.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as with your horror movies and stories that that kind of that have a way of introducing typical typically maybe innocent content,
Mhm.
bringing into horrifying situations. So you have something that typically
Mhm.
it's like, oh, this isn't a big deal, and then you have a horror movie that brings it across and ruins the water
Mm,
for you. Have there been
yeah.
any horror movies or anything that have spawned irrational fears? And if so, what would you say that is?
Okay. It's funny that you should say water because the movie Jaws really kind of instill this irrational fear of
Definitely.
right swimming even in a pool in this kind of uh, safe place as a pool. So
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, even after watching Jaws, I get the feeling of feeling unsafe being in the water. Even though it's a safe thing, it's a safe place like a swimming pool. because I don't know. I mean, that's the genius of it, I guess, because the camera kind of lurking beneath the waters, you don't know what it is that, or who is it that watch you from below. So, and I don't think that I don't think that I have ever, get past that, or cured from that irrational fear, because it just creeps up on you, really, when you are swimming. I mean, I love swimming. But I have to always wear goggles so that I can just see all sides of the pool. I don't want to be, swimming by closing my eyes and have those imagination comes right back to me. So yeah, goggles is a must. So yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny that you say that, because I mean, I wish I would have written this down so that it could have just been more of an official thing, and not somebody just saying, "Oh, I did that too." But this is now you're the fourth person that has mentioned this, and every time I mentioned that, I had a neighbor that lived behind us that had a pool, and I saw Jaws. That was the first horror movie I'd ever seen, and I remember having to bring over water goggles just in case there was something under the surface that I wasn't seeing from standing over, like probably a 3-foot pool, a 4-foot pool. But it's like, in case I go under and there's something there that I'm not seeing from over top, or the light reflects on it weird, and it's just insane to think of, now. But then hearing other people say that shit, I'm like, that is insane that something could have such an effect on so many people universally.
So many people.
And not only, the scary imagery, and people, say whatever they will about the shark nowadays or whatnot, but, just the effectiveness. I still have to say it's probably the best movie of all time, in any film genre whatsoever, to me, and there's enough of like an adventure story, and the shipmates going out to sea, and and not to mention the score. I mean, of course, everybody always talks that, but I think that has to be an earlier moment in film where I really realized or thought about the music, just as opposed to being some sort of background filler or something. It's like, oh,
agreed.
This is a bad moment coming. The typical music that's coming up. It's like, oh, something's bad. I'm gonna close my eyes. Shit. Have you ever like, is it still a thing today as far as going out and swimming? Like, do you go out to the ocean a lot?
Well, yeah, because we have a lot of beach spots, right? Like when you go to this island named Bali, which is very famous. It's located in Indonesia. It's part of Indonesia, and it's basically an island separated, surrounded by the sea. So naturally enough, the main spot that you have to go to in places like that is to the beach, and you can go surfing, which I do not, but I enjoy it. No, that would be embarrassing. But I enjoy going to the beach and get my feet wet, and then of course do some snorkeling. That would be fun. But the good thing about snorkeling is that you can just see what's underneath you, and then I won't go that deep, of course. And but no, I mean, I think I have never gotten over that fear, but by just putting myself inside the water and then just go through it, face my fears, I thought that I have conquered it. But to be honest, I have never conquered it just because of that goddamn movie. I don't know. To be honest, no. So, I mean, for photos, I can just go, do poses and stuff, as if I'm very relaxed and this is within my element or whatever. But no, to be quite honest, no, never. So yeah. If I see a fin of something, or I would have just shit my pants. Yeah.
I could not. I mean, I could not imagine. You have like I mean, not to continue further on this, but you have the scene where the little kid's sitting there, and you see the fin just like slowly going by.
Man, yeah.
You can't make that. You know, you can't. And if anybody ever
Yeah.
tried to remake the movie, it's like, boy, just the overall feel of that movie. Yeah. All right. Anyway, so
Right.
moving on from that,
Anyway.
you know, we're gonna dig in. We talked a little bit,
Right.
you know, some certain scenes
Right.
and scary things like that. But I wanted to dig in a little bit as far as Goosebumps. So you had mentioned that the last time we had talked in some of those books, and you know, in your youth, those being kind of an introduction to maybe some of the scarier content with reading and books. What was the first book that you had gotten that was your introduction to that collection?
I remember I was intrigued because of the cover. I mean, if you remember the covers, the original covers were had that hand painted quality to them, and was quite dark and quite freaky for a kid. So, and I was intrigued as well, and then I bought the first episode in the series, which was Welcome to the Dead House. And
Yeah.
I remember it was amazing, because now that I rethink about it, there was no other, to me at least, episode on an Goosebumps series that is can be as grotesque as the ending or the climax of that first episode, the Welcome to the Dead House episode. Because if I remember correctly, the whole town, which was filled with undead people, melted because of the rays of sunshine, and they melted right before our eyes, or our main character's eyes, and their not high school, the middle school friends just said sorry while they were melting. So I think that was one of the earliest, I think, image. It's not a movie image, but it was from literature, from you know, books, but it was so hard hitting for my, you know, young mind at that time. So,
yeah. What were some of your favorite covers? You know, mentioning those as well. What were some of your favorites?
Right. I think Welcome to the Dead House was quite a great cover. You know, the old house was shot or photographed from an angle that made it imposing and old and creepy. And also, I remember seeing the cover for Say Cheese and Die, if I'm not mistaken. That the photographs of skeletons doing barbecuing and on a picnic, but the whole family as skeletons, and I feel like, yeah, I mean, what's not to love as a kid? You know, I surely I bought that. So yeah.
I'm trying to think now of what was the one with the shark on it.
Right.
Oh my God.
Deep Trouble.
Oh man. I knew it was Deep something. I was like, oh man.
Right.
Yeah, that was one. I mean, with our interests, obviously, I feel like we were both probably in the same situation when we saw that come out, and like, whoa,
yeah,
I'm gonna have to get this one.
yeah.
Those were always so cool, and it was a fun, you know, it was a fun way of, you know, being younger, as far as like my parents were never really keen on me watching a whole lot of, you know, scary things. Jaws was something, because they kind of thought that it wasn't, you know, anything too much, and it turned out to fuck my whole life up. But you know, as far as you know, a lot of other, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something, you know, they didn't really want me digging into that stuff at an early age. And so, you know, Goosebumps was that cool thing to kind of tie you over, and, you know, kind of feel like, in a sense, like, man, I'm kind of getting away with something here. You know, this stuff's pretty creepy, you know. And so that was always fun. And you mentioned those books too. That was always cool. Were you ever into like the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark series at all?
I don't. At that time, the bookstore here was flooded with Goosebumps and Fear Street books. Maybe they distributed Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark too, but for some reason I didn't pick up on it. So I just realized that the existence of that series just much later on in life, especially when the movie was made, right? From Guillermo del Toro or something.
Yeah,
but the movie was made. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't read one episode of it. Was it, you know, as creepy or more or creepier than Goosebumps? I don't know.
So I mean, it was a lot more macabre. It was more of like they were supposed to be for kids, but the illustrations that were in them were just absolutely haunting. You know, you would sit there and you'd be reading the story and it would have like an illustration of a person with their face melting or something, and it was all pencil drawn, so it was just very minimal, you know, nothing too overly crazy, but detailed enough, you know, where it was like what you're reading and what you're looking at right next to it is
It's the same.
It's rough. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But I can say, so one thing with those is there's like a particular story, and I don't want to completely give it away, but it's really short. It's maybe a couple of pages long, nothing, you know, really crazy, but what you get out of it from the beginning of it to the end of it, you're just like, this only was 4 or 5 pages, but I am so satisfied from, I get, you know, it just told me like a whole, you know, hours worth of a story that you could, you know, paint into a film. It kind of, you know, it kind of drew over to when I was reading Who's There, you know, and kind of getting into it. Particularly, I want to say At Dusk. That was one too. And I was thinking about this too, as far as, you know, when I was writing out the interview, and I'm going to do a separate video as far as like my review of the book, just because I want this to be your time and, you know, kind of about your breakdown and things like that too. But there was certain aspects in Who's There where it was like, this is the feeling that I'm getting when I was like reading that book, as far as, you know, sometimes you might have something that's a little bit longer. I think it's the third.
Yeah,
the third. Think here.
Yeah, the Wandering.
The Wandering. Yep. So that one was a little bit longer, but you have something at Dusk, or the Voice Canal. I think that was the fourth one, correct?
Yeah.
You have the
correct.
Little bit shorter, but it's like, ooh, okay. Effective. It gets done what it has to be. You know, it doesn't have to be a Stephen King novel. You know, you get in, you pack that punch, and it's like, all right, take care. Love it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm so relieved. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Really.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had, you know, it was funny too, because I had this interview coming up, and then we had talked about, you know, doing the review of Later, which we're going to do here in a couple of minutes. Right. You know, so I'm reading, you know, Who's There. I'm reading Later. There was another 2 books for 2 other interviews that I have coming up. So I was like, I've never read so much in my life, but I love
That's
it.
awesome.
You know, it's great. You know, it is so fun, and it really pushes me back into, you know, having that inspiration to, you know, continue getting into reading too, because you know, what wonderful worlds you can create just with your own mind, and everything doesn't have to be, you know, a visual too. So very fun. And digging into that. So, you know, next up, talking about Who's There, as a twice, you know, 2-time published author now, correct?
Yeah.
So you had your first book, which, is Dinner with
Saucer. Yeah.
Saucer.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shit. I was trying to think. I thought I had it written down, but so how did that come about, as far as initially your first time writing? You know, was that something that just started off a little bit more fun, or were you sitting down and kind of telling yourself like, I want to try and make, you know, something out of this? Where did that start?
Like any other, you know, I have been writing for myself for, you know, since I was little. So it was when I started that book, you know, I had no inclination or thought that it was going to be published, or I would want to publish it. So it started out like any other, you know, like the hobby of mine, which is writing. But because I think it took up years of my life, really, writing that down. I remember I finished it like within 3 years. So I feel like I have given too much time for this hobby of mine to not to capitalize on it. Not that I want to get money from it, but I just want to know what is it all about. Yeah, I just want to share. I just want to know the purpose of it all. You know, the gift or the hobby that I have. I just want to know the response of other people, you know, other than my family. So I finished the book, and mind you, this is all in Indonesian language. So I sent it to several publishers, and one that responded and you know, positively, and then chose to publish it is this one publishing house, small publishing house, but led by this well-known Indonesian writer, a literature writer, and he published it, and it didn't make any, splash commercially, but what I got from it is the satisfaction that people, publishing house do accept my story, that it is publishable, it is worthy of publishing. And I think later on in the year, the publishing house submitted my book into a literary award in Indonesia, and they had at that time this new category for young writers, for new writer, and I got shortlisted. So yeah, it was a fun experience. I never expected that it would go on like that. So yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So from there, when was what was the gap in time to when Who's There was then published?
Oh, wow. It was a long time. So my first book was published around 2006 or 2007, and then I was it was a long time ago. I was in college, and again, and then I graduated, and I got to work mode, and I work in an office in a law firm, and all of those long hours kind of robbed me of my creativity. It numbs your mind, really, those routine office work and stuff like that. So in the middle of those years, I wrote kind of a series for a teenage magazine distributed nationally in Indonesia, but that's about it. I mean, I didn't write a full-blown novel or a collection of short stories. I just kind of submerge myself in work. But then as years go by, I felt like I wrote short stories here and there, and I realized that I have around like 3 short stories, which was later incorporated into this book, Who's There. So I write very intermittently, not that I was not very productive. So yeah, I mean, having this book published around 2019 was something like it's an awesome thing for me, really. A realization that, what, I mean, I have this time. Work can be, I can still keep my day job, of course, but this hobby can be some sort of a release, especially during this weird times like these. If you don't have a release, then you would go, mental. So yeah, it's a great thing to have, really. Yeah.
I can say, as far, even as myself personally, working full time and having, different things like that, it's always a beautiful thing to be able to tell yourself at the end of the day, not overly in a selfish way of like, oh, life's about me, but, in the sense of being able to have that time where, yeah, I'm going to be able to be a responsible adult and pay my bills and have my roof over my head and food, to nourish myself and, all those blessings. But in the sense of being able to have a second where it's like, I'm going to take an hour a day to sit down and write, or I'm going to, take a little time as far as, for myself. I mean, good for you, and keep that up too. Cause I feel like that's a thing. I mean, not that you have to hear that from me, but anybody, in general, just as far as, that they go and have some sort of a passion, that they end up losing to, something that you go in and you punch in the clock to, which I'm not one to say, screw the establishment, and don't go and work and don't get a paycheck. I mean, you got to pay for things, and then that's perfectly fair.
Agreed.
But having that, having that outlet and having something, I can't, put anything into mind that, is any more healthy, just as exercise and different things like that. So, I love that, you kind of got back in tune with that, and I hope you have some more things popping out, because this was really,
I
really
will.
fun. And, you know, and even if it's short stories, you know, myself, I'm probably a little ADHD somewhere in there. So short stories are always, you know, that's always my
Yeah.
thing, you know. So
Me too.
I do
I
love
think
that.
I have attention disorder too. I think. I don't know. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I want to dig into. We're gonna get into this bad boy. So who's there? What we're gonna do?
All right.
I wanted to kind
Okay.
of just do a little thing as far as without giving away too much. You know, I don't want you. You don't have to give
Mm,
the whole story behind all of them or anything
mm,
like that. But I just wanted to dig into the shorts and maybe a little bit of the inspiration or where the idea
mm.
came from. So for the first story here that we have, we got my the introduction here, which is who's there. So tell us a little bit about where the idea for that short came from.
Right. So who's there in essence is about this man who's about to get married in a week or so, and he's vacationing with his fiancee and two of his best friends, right? And he's vacationing in this small, isolated, very lively, very exotic island in Indonesia, somewhere in Indonesia, and it's about his psyche really, and the fact that he knows that he has done something unforgivable, but and he knows that his time is limited in the sense that he had nowhere to go after doing what he did. He's trapped in this island, this paradise island, and yet he had nowhere to go, and he knows clock is ticking, time is ticking. People are going to find out. So it's not an exercise in plotting, because I think for people who has read and watched many horror movies, they will know where the story is going to go. But it's for me, it's an exercise in kind of getting to know a human psyche when we know that this person has done something wrong, and he knows that the walls are closing in. There's nowhere to go. What will his action be, and what will his thought process be? And I was heavily influenced by this short story, The Telltale Heart, by Edgar Allan Poe, and it is about essentially about a guy who did something, and he kept telling himself and the readers that he did nothing wrong, but he kept hearing the sound of heartbeats from the floor where he
Yeah.
bury, his sins. So it's very symbolic. It's very creepy without showing anything really, without showing ghostly apparitions or things like that. And it is haunting because it's about guilt and stuff like that. So I loved it a lot. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I love it. All right, next
Yeah.
up we had At
Yeah.
Dusk, which that one
Okay.
between, like I said, that one between that
Yeah.
and the voice canal, I think were my favorites of this. But give us a little background on At Dusk.
Right. Right. So At Dusk is about it's a story about kind of high school reporter who was assigned to interview this popular mystery or horror author. And by the time this reporter arrived at the scene, at the author's house, it's almost, the dark. It's almost dark. It's at dusk, and he met with the author, and the interview went well. But then the author tells a story about his past back when he was still a kid, and he was still living in a remote village somewhere in Java, Indonesia, where there was legends and myths about creatures that lives in the forest that is kind of surrounding the village. And this creature or this monster or whatever you call it feeds on the blood of children. But what complicates things is children at that time were their school is a religious school, so they had to, and the religious that school is located inside of the forest, and they had to walk kind of a bit far away to where the school is. And and one thing leads to the other, and some scary thing happened to the author when he was a kid and in that school and that forest. So, and for some reason, that myth kind of travels to the modern times, and shows its effects on our main character nowadays. So, and I was inspired, I think, by the stories that we have here in Indonesia, and I think we have everywhere. The stories that parents used to tell children to, come back home and not roaming around outside the house when it's dark outside, because something could come and get you. And I think it's universal. Parents tell children stories like that because it's a cautionary tale. It's it's a morality tale or whatever. So, and it's effective. So I felt like I want to create something of my own. I created the name of the creature. It doesn't exist in the mythology in Indonesia, but I took elements from the mythology here. So yeah, it was pretty much inspired by that. So.
Okay, that was what I was going to ask. Was I mean, not in revealing, but just as far as if that was something that you made up, because I was trying to look online and trying to see if there was something, and I was like, boy, I don't think, not that I'm finding, it could be something where it's a separation, whereas like even different movies that you've mentioned to me, it's like, I can't find any of this over in, in the States. So I didn't know if it was just a thing that I was overlooking or not seeing, but that's sweet. I love that. That's cool. That's very cool. And hearing the description makes me want to read it over again. So
okay,
I'm sure that'll be. So next we have The Wandering. So this is the third short, and I believe it might be the longest in the whole book.
Oh wait,
the buffering.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's buffering. Okay, cool.
There we are. All right, so The Wandering, we got that one.
Yeah. So it's the longest it's the longest story in the book, but it's a story about this security guard who's patrolling his floor, and his floor is situated on the top floor of a office building, who's closing down for the night because it's late at night. And during his patrol, he began to hear strange noises, and he started to talk to his supervisor who's patrolling the other floor. And while investigating the source of the noises and and whatnot, he started finding these letters which appears out of nowhere, and because he's very curious, he didn't have anything to do really. He started reading them, and those letters tell us about, I think, the correspondence between this guy and the girl. But what we read and what the security guards read at that time was only from this perspective of the girl who was living in the village and was very pinning over this guy who traveled to Jakarta, to the capital city, to to tend to his sick family member. But as the letter keeps appearing one after the other, and as the story progresses in the letter, it got more weird, and it got kind of weirder and more strange, to the point where the security guard realized that it kind of, his life and the story in the letter kind of affects one another. So I was inspired because when I was writing that, I was reading Dracula by Bram Stoker, and the novel of Dracula actually was written in in the form of letters, from Mina to Jonathan, from Jonathan to Mina, from the doctor character
Oh,
to
yeah.
it was written. It was written in letters, and there was very little part when it was where it was narration. It was all letters. So, and it gives some sort of it made it real somehow, because we are not being told what the story about by Bram Stoker, but we read, with our own eyes, the letters from the real characters in the story, and it made us trying to connect the dots. Like, oh, something weird is happening. Something weird is happening. Jonathan should go home, and because I think Dracula is traveling to England or whatever, because of those letters. So those format and mechanics really work wonders to the story. So yeah, I was inspired by that heavily.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that. I
yeah,
never, put any sort of like correlation or anything like that, but that is a
yeah,
cool nod. And
yeah,
certainly the reason why I'm asking these things, because hearing these things, I mean, just as much, I mean, as far as like a film fan or a fan of books,
yeah.
I love hearing or seeing the behind the scenes things. So like, this is so cool. Let me stop fucking talking, Jesus. All right, the voice canal. Let's dig
Right.
into that one. So that's what we got next. The voice canal.
All right. So the voice canal is about this guy, this student who's studying abroad, outside of Indonesia. I think he's studying in Scotland, and he's finishing his postgraduate degree. He's in the process of writing his dissertation. And during this last semester or last year that he has, he keeps an intense conversation with his dad back home, and his dad wants him to stay there, in Scotland to finish his studies and continue, searching for opportunities and stuff like that, and not to worry about him, because he's been sick in the past, but not to worry about him. But the guy, the main character, the student, really wants to go home and see his dad, because it's been quite a long time. And throughout the story, the reader would then find out about the real circumstances about the main character's family, about his dad and whatnot. And it's about, I think it's about love that knows no distance, not, that it can transcend really limitations or what we thought as limitation. So, and communication can transcend worlds, really. So I was inspired by, so I studied in Scotland around 2010. I studied law.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
yeah, I studied in Scotland for a year, and I had friends there, fellow Indonesian students as well. And one of my friends got to go home to Indonesia during summer break, and during the summer break, he managed to see his family and see his mom, but his mom then passed away while he's there. So it was sad and all, but one positive thing that I can get from it, at least my friend got to see his mom, for the last time before,
Sure.
and had closure and stuff like that. And then I was wondering, what if someone cannot go, back home? What if they are bound by work and stuff like that, and couldn't travel back home that easily? And when something happened, they couldn't just hop on a plane and go home. How that affect them? How would they find closure and stuff? So yeah, things like that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. And I mean, certainly, like I say, one of the shorter stories in the book, but one of those things where the depth and soul, I think I can say to it, where you're kind of like reading over things,
Yeah.
and there'd be moments where I'd go back just to make sure, and I'm like, oh boy, that's rough. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
that's a good one. I love that story too. Shit, that's
Oh,
awesome.
thanks.
Man. All right, last
Thank
up,
you.
we got the Forest Protector. Let's dig into that, man.
Right. Right. So the Force Protector is about a mom and her kid who was trying to escape a really toxic household. And in the story, they are in their journey of escaping. And but while while the mother is physically escaping and mentally, of course, but physically distancing herself from that toxic household and toxic partner, and really, really harmful relationship as well. The kid who lose himself in comic books and superhero stories and stuff like that, he finds solace and escapism through superhero stories. Um, and by the end, actually, of the story, my point is the superhero is the mom. I mean, it's always been the mom because without her son knowing, he's traveling with his superhero because the mom is actually saving his life and their life together. So the Force Protector is the name of the superhero that is idolized by the kid, is actually the mom. The mom has kind of transformed from basically the victim and then the monster and then the superhero by the end of the story. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where I get my inspiration from. I think from reading and right, like reading and listening to stories about like toxic relationship and harmful relationship and how it really kind of want to interfere. But if nobody tries to interfere, and somebody just as relationship together. So
Oh man,
buffering.
this
Okay.
let's see. This is starting to break up a little bit. Yeah. Sorry if I was just sitting here staring at you. You were done talking. I can go back and edit that. So you're like you're talking and I would normally be reacting. I'm just like yeah, okay, sure. I apologize. I hope that did not seem like that. Yeah, no, I mean, as a collection, as far as like I say, generally, I feel like short stories are kind of my thing. Even anthology films, it has always been a favorite thing of mine as well. And so this was something that was right up my alley. And seeing that you had it right online, and it was just like, wow, I'm more than happy, trying to support friends on here and happily doing so out of it actually being a good product. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. I should thank you as well. Thank you, for taking the chance on that book. I mean, you didn't know anything about that book, and you just bought it,
Yeah.
So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's so cool. And like I say, I mean, the opportunity of having this and being able to meet some of the people that I do that I never would, I mean, it's so cool being able to do that. And like I say, sometimes
Likewise.
you get some things that you kind of jump right into, and you're like, all right, this is going to be a little tough. But no, yeah, I had so much fun with it, and I'm going to do an actual like video for my page too as a review and kind of give some shout out for some people, hopefully who follow, to watch that and see to be able to check it out and give it a buy too. So yeah, absolutely, I had a lot of fun with that, man. So last up here, we're going to talk this bad boy. So another book here we had talked about later, Stephen King's Later. So first out, the first kind of, a couple of things I wanted to break down was basically characters. If we thought that the world was broken down well, if we could imagine the things that were going on, or if it was kind of fuzzy, overall satisfaction with the story. And then what do we think of the ending, and then a rating? So let's start with the characters. What did you think of, you have the main... So let me first say this, first of all, I guess. My printer took a shit, and I had notes that I had printed out and everything like that, so I had to transfer some of the stuff that I had to my iPad, and I don't have any of those notes on here, so I'm going to be missing some of the names and whatnot, but we're going to get there. So what did you think of the lead character, Jamie?
Right. So I mean, I enjoy following his journey to adulthood, really, because at the start of the story, I think he was only like, I don't know, 10, 14, I don't know. But he grew up to be. I'm the writer, Stephen King. I feel like Jamie feels like a real kid. The comments that he made, the thought process that he had when he was little, truly like a little kid. So it's not like reading something like a grown man trying to infuse his thoughts into a little kid character. So, and I love that. That's number one thing that I noticed, because he was never he was scared of it at first because of the apparition that came before his eyes. At first was really grotesque because the first ghost that he see was very grotesque looking, but because he had a supportive support system, which was his mom, he began to kind of, from what I see, embrace his gift, and it's refreshing and joyful to read, because he became courageous, he became kind of resourceful and active and inquisitive, and so on, and empathetic as well. He thinks about other people's feelings, his mom's feelings. He thinks about his mom's girlfriend feelings when he was they were living together, and he thinks about this professor's feelings, the neighbor, that lived across the hall. And so yeah, I love the character because he thinks about other people, he's empathetic, he embraces his gifts. So I don't know, how about you?
I totally agree. I mean, not adding a ton of, I mean, as far as what you said too, but I think it was the thing with Stephen King that he looks over, or maybe not even so much. I think a lot more people talk about nowadays that, he has more of a niche of creating relationships and characters and, real-time feelings, even sometimes more so than capturing, scary moments. He has plenty of terror and plenty of horror elements in his stuff, but the characters, I think, are, really a huge part that shined with this book. And not to front load by saying, as far as like, there's some creepy shit in this book, as far as some of the newer stuff, especially that I've read from him, there are certainly some moments, where I was like, oh boy, but yeah, as far as Jamie, the lead character, you kind of feel for him and you worry, and, you put yourself in that situation of being a young teenager and what the hell would I do? And then with the mom, you feel for her and you feel the compassion of, losing the job and then going through hard times and trying to do what you have to do and striving, and then you kind of root for her too when the girlfriend puts her in a shitty situation and, she's like, no, I'm not dealing with this. Sometimes the stories kind of put you in the situation. It's like, oh, come on, man. Don't do that. You're not doing the right thing. I mean, having that integrity and kind of, it showed the bond between her and her son, to where it was a really, a positive experience as far as for what they had, for their relationship. And,
Agree.
And the villains, the girlfriend, by the end of the book, you just want her to die at any point. You're perfectly happy with something terrible happened. So I mean, as far as the emotions, it's not anything that you have to push yourself to kind of want to shed a tear or feel bad for. It comes in. There's moments where my hair's raising or my skin's getting real tight and red because I'm like, oh god damn it, like what is she doing? So I certainly, I mean, I can definitely say the characters I loved about it, and that was why I wanted to touch on that. As far as the world presented, could you picture them in New York, and could you picture the surroundings and some of the things when they start explaining some of the grotesqueness and the eye bulging? And by the way, this is going to be some spoilers, so if anybody hasn't read this book, do so.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, please do so. It's a good book. It's an amazing book. Imagine it most of the time, because the description, it was so vivid. It was written beautifully, and when it comes to the description of the ghost, the Central Park ghost, and the evil ghost, the bomber ghost. So I forgot the name. but
Yeah.
but I forgot the name really. But when he that's the only part of the book where I got worried about Jamie, because other ghosts would just, I think, I the questions ghosts, because they don't have, I think the rule is the ghosts normally don't have business anymore or ties anymore to the world, so they would just answer without burden, like they would just answer right away, and they would just become docile and passive. But this particular ghost really taunt Jamie, really, right? And call him, what is it that he calls Jamie, champ? And
Yeah. Yeah.
Jamie doesn't like to be called champ, and he told that to the girlfriend of his mom. He's not talking to the ghost, but the ghost caught up on it, I think, or overheard it, or maybe Jamie told the ghost that he didn't like that name, but then the ghost kind of approached him, really, right? And then, see you later, champ. And then I was like, oh, this is maybe the main villain of the movie. If that's so, then it's chilling. And yeah, I mean that's the only part in the book that I felt, oh, something, a danger kind of threats Jamie, because for the other ghosts, they are all kind of passive. I don't know about you though.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then it went into him battling or having to, at one point, kind of strangle onto him, and the old man, the neighbor, had started telling him about the ritual of Chud. I don't know. Have you ever read it?
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. So that was one thing where I was like, oh shit, if there's something kind of like intertwining world. I mean, because obviously Stephen King has a lot of things that kind of intertwine or something, is like but that was something where I started wondering by the end of it, I'm like, is there going to be some sort of a mention of, like, maybe not Pennywise, but something of of the sort, otherworldly? And they mentioned the ritual of Chud, and I was like, oh shit, all right, what's going to go on here? What did you end up thinking of the ending?
Going to a spoiler for so ending, I like the climax very much. It's very tense when during the drive, right, with the girlfriend, with that cop gone bad. He start piecing together what the agenda is, really, right, for driving to that mansion or to that house. That is suspense. That is suspenseful, really, when Jamie started to realize, oh, she did something to the people in this house. I can see the ghosts, in the front yard. From the front yard, he can see that people have died, and there are kind of bullet wound, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the killing might be done by the person beside him in the car. So it's suspenseful, and the climate, and I think Jamie was smart to trick the villain into, going into this secret room, if I'm not mistaken. But then, of course, the chase happens, and then Jamie had to do the whistling thing, calling his friend. And I think it was a really tense moment. I love it. I love it very much. It circled back to the ghost that he defeated earlier on in the story when he was younger, right? And that the repercussion of that is that Jamie would then had nightmares and stuff, but he got through it, I think. But the one thing that bothers me a little bit is the late reveal of where Jamie came from. I kind of,
oh yeah,
it's tragic. I don't know if it's necessary. Maybe it is to explain where he got the gifts, maybe. But can it just be from someone above, without
Yeah,
connecting it to. I don't know though.
I didn't know what to think. I thought initially that I thought it was cool. I was like, oh boy. But then, kind of what you mentioned as far as like, then I started thinking like, okay, does he have this gift because he's a product of incest? Now I'm like,
Oh my God.
that's a little weird.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, it was kind of a thing where I feel like I feel obviously like Stephen King has that image as far as a lot of the endings of his books, get a lot of heat, and people are like, oh boy, like the whole thing was great, but the ending sucked. But I felt like this was cool just as far as him kind of overcoming that, and then just kind of as like a final little wink, like, by the way, this guy that you thought all along and didn't want anything to do with it was actually your dad. It's like, what? Now you're like, I kind of want to go back and reread, some of the relationship that he had with this uncle that he went and, talked to, and maybe some things that I had missed just thinking of that as, it's just his uncle, and maybe, something was said early on. But yeah, I honestly, I was satisfied. I thought it was really cool. I really did enjoy, the final like battle sequences and some of the things, and the cop that falls, and it kind of describes all in depth as far as her taking the land on the base of the stairs, and I'm just so it was definitely cool. And if you get a chance, the hard case crime, the other one that he did before this was Joyland. Oh boy, that's probably one of my like top 3 favorite Stephen King books, and that was just a recent,
I will get it for sure.
I think.
Oh really? Okay,
Very
I will
good.
get it for
Very
sure.
Good.
I will get it for sure.
What would you rate this bad boy out of let's say 5?
Right. So I would normally rate it as a 5 because it's very good. But because I don't know what to feel about that reveal, I'm going to knock off 1 star and give it a respectable 4 out of 5 stars. It's great.
I love that. I'm right there the same way too. There was it's hard to say. I mean, anything is perfect. You know what I mean? Like even looking into films, there's movies where it's like but like film wise, Jaws is probably the only movie I would consider a perfect movie. As far as books, there's some things that I have read, but I would definitely say like a 4 out of 5, like right just under from perfect, but. There was so much that I loved about this. There was, the fun, character, the fun relationships, the kind of coming of age story with, some of the things that Stephen King brings, and then some really creepy shit and some cool things, as far, maybe I'm being a little bit harder now that I'm describing everything too, because I mean, I really liked kind of how it goes into him having to be a detective and figuring some of these things out, and then she became. Yeah, I don't either a 4 or 4.5. I really loved this book.
Yeah.
I was having a hard time putting it down for sure.
Yeah, me too.
I love that. Yeah. All right, let me ask you. So for the finale here, and I'm going to let you go because man, I need to let you get some sleep, my dude. I feel terrible. I'm gonna have to figure this shit out as far as times. Oh my god. So let me ask you. So you're writing a new book. Let's just say that you have a book coming out, okay? And you have the opportunity where you just get it finished. And you have somebody reach out and they say, hey, I am willing to direct this, and you can have whatever lead actor and actress portray the lead male and female characters. Who would be your go-tos for a lead actor and actress for this book? Let's put you on the spot.
It can come from anywhere, right? All right.
Anywhere.
You put me on the spot. I have to think of because I know the director that I would pick, and I think who I would pick as well. I think I would pick Joko Anwar if he's willing to take a look at my work. But
I love that.
As far as actors and actresses go, I really enjoy Samara Weaving in Ready or Not.
Oh yeah, okay.
I mean, I would set the story in Indonesia, and maybe she can, play a character as a backpacking, tourist or whatever, or maybe she's studying here or whatever, and then some sort of a happening inspired by mythology here or traditions
Hmm.
here start happening to her
Hmm.
because maybe she doesn't know the traditions here or whatever. So yeah, maybe
Sure.
for actress some more weaving, and for actor I would pick an Indonesian actor as some sort of a guide or like Indonesian voice to give the audience kind of the background of all of these happenings. So I would pick someone like Joe Taslim, who recently we can see from Mortal
Ooh,
Kombat,
yeah.
right? I mean, he plays in action movies most of the times, but it would be interesting
Uh,
to for him to play something in horror movies. So yeah,
oh
I
man,
think so. I don't know.
I love that. Somewhere in there, if you're gonna have Joko, you have to have is it Taro Basro? Taro Basro?
Tara Basro, yes. If Tara Basro is here, it is I don't know. Just want to give
Yeah,
a shout out.
I'm
So
married, so I
yeah,
can't
Tara
say too
Basro.
much, but yeah, she is a great actress.
Yeah, she is. She
No,
is. Yeah.
no, this has been absolutely amazing, man. Thank you so much for taking the time, and at this late hour,
Thank you for
I
having
hope
me.
you get some rest, and we'll of course be
Thank
in
you.
contact and have some more fun and do another one of these here soon.
All right. Thank you for having me, man.
All right.
All right.
Absolutely. You take care and
Okay.
stay healthy. That's what I'm trying to say.
Stay healthy as well. All right.
All right,
All
bye,
right.
buddy.
Bye. Bye.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.